Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second day of our online course on classical Indian philosophy organized by Bhaktivedanta Research Center. So, this morning we have Professor Maitryee Dutta with us today. Let's welcome Professor Dutta. She is a professor of philosophy at Jadavpur University, and her areas of interest, include metaphysics, epistemology, both Indian and Western, and she has a good number of publications to her credit. So, without wasting any more time, over to you, Professor Datta, and she will be speaking today on universal in classical India, real or nominal. So, Professor Datta, please.
Thank you, Nirmaloda, for inviting me and giving me a chance to say a few words about universal in classical India. And I am really uh, I'm really appreciative of this project. Now, I also I'm going to start today's presentation without delay. Now, I'm starting. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say a few things. That is, this discussion of universal in classical India is actually a very huge area, actually. And as we know that in classical India, this universal is regarded as Samanya, and then there is a subclass called Jati, which is specially discussed in Nyaya And in the mainstream Nyaya we have found several Lakshana and Vibhago and Porikha of this Samanyo and Jati, that is starting from Nyaya and then Vachano Bhashya, Vartikov, Uddatkaro, etc. So I have thought that instead of going through that mainstream philosophy, starting with Nyaya Sutra, let's go to some alternative path which has also been taken in Indian classical context by a very reputed Indian classical philosopher of 9th century, and his name we all know is Jadavpur. So I am not going to discuss Samanyo or Jati following Nyaya Sutra or Bhasha Parichhed or like any other Nobunaya text, which is very much familiar to most of the students and scholars of classical Indian philosophy. All those are very important, I know, and have actually very much influence on different issues of other classical Indian philosophy. Yet, I have thought this new way, perhaps many of you know about Jadavpur and his book Nyaya. Yet, I have thought that this will be a new way to approach universal in classical India, and my subtopic, which is real or nominal, I have mentioned it deliberately because actually from the ontological point of view or metaphysical point of view, we always discuss the status of universal, that is whether it is real or nominal. But here, as we follow Jayanto's text, Nyaya, we will find the perspective or the way Jayanto has situated this particular topic called universal in classical India, and this will give us a perspective to understand universal, and we will find that this universal, as we know in the Buddhist system also, that it is not only relevant in the metaphysical or ontological context, but it is very much relevant in the meaning theory. That is the context of word meaning. So this is a topic which is discussed both from the perspective of the theory of meaning as well as from metaphysics or ontology. So in this way, this topic, universal, deserves special mention. So with these few lines of introduction, I will embark on uh, the main presentation. First of all, I'd like to say something about Jayanta Bhatto and his magnum opus, Nyayamanjari. Jayanta Bhatto is one of the very famous Nyaya philosopher and logician of Kashmir during 9th century. And his book Nyayamanjari is based upon Gautama's Nyaya Sutra. Though, as I have mentioned, he belonged to 9th century CE, and Gautama was of the time first century. From first century to 9th century, there was a long gap, and we know that in the mainstream Prachino Nyayo system, after Gautama, Batshayano has written the first commentary that is regarded as Bhashya, and then came Vartikakaro, Uddatkaro, and then Vachaspati Misra, like that, and then Udayana. We all know that this is the commentarial system we find in the mainstream Nyayo philosophy. But parallelly, we find some alternative traditions, and as I have told you that Jayanta Bhatto belonged to that one of those alternative traditions, and he belonged to Kashmir, and at that time there was a king of Kashmir who, first of all, at the outset, has patronized Jayanta very much, but later on, there was some kind of animosity grew up between the king and Jayanta Bhatto, and he lost the patronage of the king, and he was imprisoned. And one thing has made me very curious, that this whole Nyayamanjari Jayanta Bhatto has composed in the imprisonment, and it reminded me of our very dear and famous Western philosopher Wittgenstein, that we all know Wittgenstein has composed the whole of Tractatus in the imprisonment during the First World War. And this is such a peculiar thing that I didn't know previously, that Jayanta Bhatto has, how I don't know these people have composed such philosophical treatises in imprisonment. Maybe the solitary confinement has made them write such philosophical treatises, because we all know that solitude is one of the important mark of doing philosophy. And Jayanta has proved that in writing his Nyayamanjari. And here he has, this cannot be treated as a direct commentary on Gautama, because here Jayanta has raised many different other philosophical issues which are very original of Jayanta. And he has his way of writing here has a uniqueness, that is, he has raised or presented the opponent's position first, and very, very humbly, That is the characteristic feature of Jayanto here, that he was not at all very aggressive in presenting the opponent's position. In most of the time, we find that the opponents were very aggressive, and for that reason, when they presented the position of the opponent, a particular Siddhanti, then it could be distorted. But Jayanta Bhatto is very humble to the opponents. That showed his what we can say, his magnanimity as a philosopher. So his book Nyayamanjari is based upon Gautama's Nyaya Sutra, as I have mentioned. As in the Nyaya mainstream commentarial tradition, we find Vatshayana as the Bhashyakara. In an alternative commentarial tradition on Nyaya Sutra, we find Jayanta Bhatto as a Bhashyakara, who has provided a somewhat different interpretation of Nyaya Sutra. Now, I would like to situate the discussion on universal following Jayanto here. As I have mentioned, we more or less are acquainted with the notion of universal as presented and analyzed by Gautama and his immediate successors like Vatshayana, Karo, etc. So my purpose here will be to discuss the nature of universal following Jayanta Bhatto, who not only has discussed the Nyaya view of it, but also the views of those classical Indian philosophers who sought to deny the reality of universal. Now, when I have said real and nominal, that means that those who take universal as nominal means that they have taken it only merely it as a name, and no reality has been admitted of it. Now, when those like Noyaikos have admitted universal as a real entity, a real category, they have admitted the reality of universal. So mainly, we find that the debate regarding the status and nature of universal hovers around this debate of the whether it is a real category or it is merely a name. So I have chosen my subtopic as real or nominal. Now, the context of the discussion of universal in Nyayamanjari. Jayanta Bhatto, in his Nyayamanjari, the fifth Andhika, has started the discussion of universal in the context of the meaning of common nouns. Now, he has said that in the language, we find two types of components. One is word and the other is verb. Now, he has said that the meaning of verb is always determined in the context of sentence, because the meaning of verb cannot be understood without the reference to a sentence. But about words, he has said that these words can be of different types, and he has chosen a particular part of speech, that is noun, and he has classified noun in different types: proper noun, abstract noun, like that. And among them, one is common noun. And he has said that in determining the meaning of common noun, this notion of universal has cropped up. Now, a common noun, namely cow, denotes a particular characterized by a common feature, that is cowness, belonging to all members of the class called class denoted by cow. Now, this is the view of Noyaikos, with which Jayanto has started his discussion, and also has shown how the discussion of universal has started in the philosophical scenario. That is in the context of the meaning theory. As I have already mentioned, that there is a close relationship between the theory of meaning and the ontology through this discussion of the universal, which perhaps we find in the West also. Now, as we have found the narrow view of the discussion of universal, we find that this a particular characterized by a common feature. This is very important. This particular phrase. This is very, because here we find the crux of neo view, or we can find the flavor of neo system regarding the nature of universal. So for them, universal is a common feature which characterizes the particular, and the particular is the meaning, but it is not the meaning of the common noun independently, but it is the meaning of the common noun as characterized by the common feature, which is known as universal. Now, whether a general noun actually mean a particular characterized by a common feature or not is a debatable issue in classical Indian philosophical context. This debate has enabled classical Indian philosophers to probe into the nature of universal. This universal has not been discussed only as a metaphysical category, but also as a meaning of a particular word in classical Indian philosophical context. Now, we find that after presenting the narrow view of how the meaning of a common noun is determined, and also mentions the nature of universal in a very preliminary way, Jadavpur has anticipated some objections regarding this view. And as we know that if we say that the meaning of a common noun is a particular as characterized by a common feature, which is nothing but universal, then for these people who has said such a thing as like Noyaiko, this universal is a real entity. Otherwise, they cannot say that the meaning of a common noun, which is a particular, is characterized by the common feature universal. So they are admitting universal as an entity. So when Jadavpur is now presenting an opponent's view, he actually has mentioned that how the opponents, who are nothing but the Buddhists here, we can find it now, that how the Buddhists have tried to say that perception cannot be the proof for the acceptance of a universal. So we all know that in the philosophical context, when we are going to admit the existence of a category or existence of an entity, we always try to give a proof. And we all know that in each philosophical system, the sets of proof are different. That is, we all know that Noyaikos have admitted 4 types of proofs for knowledge, and the others accordingly. The Buddhists have admitted only 2, that is a perception and inference. And so all the different philosophical systems, we find that perception has been admitted, at least the proof for the existence of an entity. Now, the perception is regarded as the Jeshto Pramano. Now, here, Jadavpur in order to present the Buddhist position, is saying that perception cannot be the proof for the acceptance of a universal. Now let's find out why he is saying so. Some classical Indian philosophers hold that as existence of universal cannot be proved, it is non-existent. Under such circumstance, the locus of a universal, that is a particular, cannot be the meaning of a word. This is also the presentation of Jadavpur. He has said that in order to be the meaning of a common noun, when we say that a particular is the meaning of a common noun as characterized by the universal, then this particular becomes the locus of the universal. Now, if the Buddhists can prove that there is no entity existent as universal, then the meaning of such a common noun cannot be determined, because here the particular cannot be characterized by such a common feature called universal, and the meaning cannot be determined. So after stating this, Jadavpur is saying that as a universal rests upon many similar loci, the cognition of universal presupposes the knowledge of similarity, which is due to the act of comparing the loci. Now, here what the Buddhists are doing is that they are trying to analyze the process of the knowledge of universal. That is how the knowledge of universal gets generated. Generally, how generally, commonsensically, and Noyaikos hold that the knowledge of universal gets generated. They are saying that what is universal? What is this common feature? This is actually is found to present in similar loci, similar particulars, which have been taken as loci of the common feature universal. Now, the cognition of universal presupposes the knowledge of similarity, which is due to the act of comparing these loci. Now, these similar loci, why we are saying these loci where the common feature resides as similar? Because all these are similar due to the presence of that general feature or universal in it. So when we are going to have the cognition of universal, beforehand we must have the knowledge of similarity among these similar loci. So the comprehension of universal is not immediate. We cannot say that we are directly knowing the universal. This is the Buddhist version. It is not the Naya version. This is the Buddhist attack to the Naya view. So the Buddhists are holding that the comprehension of universal is not immediate because it depends upon the knowledge of similarity, which is due to the act of comparing the loci. Thus, perception being immediate, it cannot reveals universal. This is the position of the Buddhists. They are saying that we all know that perception is immediate. Perception, why? Perception can grasp the particular, the bare particular, because the perception can immediately grasp it. So it is the feature of perception, according to the Buddhists, that it grasps immediately the particular. But here the immediacy is missing in the cognition of in the case of the cognition of universal, the immediacy is missing because the cognition of universal gets generated after the knowledge of similarity, which is due to the act of comparing the loci. So it becomes mediate. So, according to the Buddhists, since it is mediate and perception is always immediate, so perception cannot reveal universal. So, perception cannot be taken to be the proof for the existence of universal. This is the argument that the Buddhists are offering here, and Jayantu is presenting the Buddhist position in this manner. So, first of all, this is the Buddhist position. Who are the opponents of Nayayiko here, and who are trying to deny the reality of universal, and for that they are trying to show that there is no proof for the existence of universal, and for that reason they have taken perception, which is the fundamental proof for any entity, and has shown why perception cannot prove the existence of universal. Okay. The knowledge of universal requires the comparison of all the loci which are known to be similar. Thus, the knowledge of universal has a dependent nature. This is another, we cannot say this is a separate argument, but this is a related argument to the first one. But this is another added one from the part of the Buddhists to show that why perception cannot establish universal. What is said here? The knowledge of universal requires the comparison of all the loci which are known to be similar. Thus, the knowledge of universal has a dependent nature. It depends. The knowledge arises depending upon another knowledge, which is the knowledge of comparison among loci for the similarity. On the other hand, perception is independent. Remember, this is the view of Buddhists. I'm saying it again and again because don't be confused that all the other systems of Indian philosophy also determines perception in this manner. Because we all know that Nayayikos have given the lakshana of perception or pratyaksha in a particular way. The Buddhists have given the definition or lakshana of perception or pratyaksha in the other way. So here, when we are talking about perception, we are only talking about the Buddhist version of perception. That is, we all know, we find the formulation of this in the later Buddhist logician like Dignago and Dharmakirti in their books. That is Kalpana Porham Abhrantam. So Kalpana Porham, this is the mark of Pratyaksha, we all know. And Kalpana Porham means which is without any type of kalpana, which is not here imagination. It is a technical term in the Buddhist epistemology, and this means any type of we can say any type of judgment, any type of qualification, any type of we can say that qualification. So it is bare particular. That is the object of perception for the Buddhists. So since they have given the lakshana of pratyaksha or perception in this manner, so they are saying that the knowledge, since the knowledge of universal has a dependent nature, on the other hand, perception is independent. Because when perception of something gets generated, then it requires no other knowledge, no previous knowledge. It doesn't require any previous knowledge. It is completely independent. So it involves no reference to past and future time. So here again, we are reminded of the Buddhist ontology, not only their epistemology, where they have explained and given the definition of perception, but also their ontology, where they have admitted real as momentary. We all know that for them, real is momentary, and it is known as swalakshana, and it is a point one. We cannot say point one. It is very difficult to determine swalakshana, because whenever we say point, a spatial dimension has come here, but please remember that there is no spatial dimension involved here. It is swalakshana. It is in itself. It cannot be described. For that reason, it is swalakshana. No qualification, no verbal qualification can be attached to it. So it is swalakshana, it is swalakshana. So it cannot endure in past and future times. It is present. And I don't know whether it be characterized as present also, because the term present also comes with past and future. So I'm not going in detail to the determination of swalakshana, but here the nature of perception, in order to determine the nature of perception along the Buddhists, we can only say that this perception is immediate, and the object of perception is swalakshana. Now, this universal, the alleged universal, which we are finding here, which has been advocated by the Noyaikos, cannot be the object of perception here, due to its immediacy and due to its nature. It involves no reference to past and future times. Thus, it is independent in nature. Therefore, perception cannot grasp universal. So here in this particular subset of the argument, it is stated that since the universal is dependent, especially the cognition of universal is a dependent one, and the perception is independent in its nature, so perception cannot grasp the universal. From the above arguments against the impossibility of the perception of universal, it becomes clear that here the opponents are Buddhists who advocate pramana vyavastha. Here also, we find that we all know about pramana vyavastha and pramana sanklabo. Now, what actually we do when we also were students, we read certain texts, certain Indian classical texts. In our university, we were fortunate that we came to read the primary texts, and from there we come to know the Nyaya position, and there we have come to know about pramana vyavastha and pramana sanklabo, and we know how to distinguish pramana vyavastha and pramana sanklabo, and this why the Buddhists follow the pramana vyavastha and the Nyaya follow the pramana sanklabo. But here it fascinated me that here I come to know why actually the Buddhists have to be pramana vyavasthavadins, because otherwise they cannot hold their whole system. There, in each system, this is the beauty of Indian philosophical systems, that their systems are so well knit. They have certain presuppositions, and in order to hold those presuppositions, be very true to those presuppositions, they have developed their philosophy. And we find our teachers have used to tell us at that point of time, I didn't understand the value of that, that each tenet of each classical Indian philosophy is connected to this presupposition. They never go astray. All the tenets, all the nuances are so well organized with these presuppositions that it is very difficult to attack and refute any of these tenets without attacking the presuppositions. If someone admits the presuppositions of a system, then all the tenets follow from it logically. So in order to refute a particular philosophical system, always we have to attack the presuppositions and not the conclusions. This is the way we should proceed. So it reminds me of those things, and you can understand that here the Lakshana of perception and the Lakshana of swalakshan given by Buddhists are such that the perception cannot take universal as its object. Therefore, they can only take swalakshana as its object, and therefore the pramana vyavastha should be there. So this is the thing. Now, after this, the obvious thing that appear here, some may say that, okay, we admit that perception cannot establish this universal, but there are other means of proof. That is, the other means of knowledge or other proofs are there, like judgment, inference, and verbal knowledge. But the Buddhists are saying, and Jayantu is stating, that judgment, inference, and verbal knowledge cannot prove any real universal. This is very interesting. The object of judgment, inference, and verbal knowledge is imaginary and not real. Jayanto is saying, following the Buddhists, that here we should keep in our mind that the Buddhist notion of real, as I have already mentioned it, that their notion of real is swalakshana. So apart from swalakshana, this samanya or universal about which we are talking here cannot be real, because we know that their criterion of real is orthokriyakaritva, that is the causal potency. I'm not going in detail to that. All of you must know that what is orthokriyakaritva, and this orthokriyakaritva actually limit the class of real. By this particular criteria, the Buddhists have determined the real. And since only the swalakshana can be taken as orthokriyakari, so apart from swalakshana, all other objects are not real. So they are saying that the object of judgment, inference, and verbal knowledge are imaginary, because all these varieties of knowledge cannot be kalpana porho. All these are with kalpana, with verbal or other qualification. So their object cannot be real in the true sense of the term. The whole argument hovers around this notion of real, which makes immediate perception as the proof, which can grasp the real, which is bare particular. So all the other forms of knowledge can only grasp imaginary objects because these are not bare particulars. And we know in the Buddhist terminology, this is known as shamanulakshana. Samanulakshana for them, though it is a category taken for our vyavaharik cognition and our vyavahar, we have to admit inference and verbal knowledge. But in the true sense of the term, this Samanulakshana cannot be real at par with Swalakshana. So here, universal, as stated by the Noyaikos, cannot be grasped by the Noyaiko, that this universal cannot be, can only be grasped by maybe by judgment, inference, etc. But that doesn't make the universal real in the same sense as Swalakshana. So all the other forms of knowledge can only grasp imaginary objects because these are not bare particulars. Universal being present in different similar loci cannot independent bare particular. We cannot say universal as particular. Even Noyaikos also do not admit universal as particular. They are saying that universal characterizes a particular. This is their view. But here the Buddhists are completely denying the reality of universal, because this universal is not bare particular. Bare particulars are only real, so universal cannot be real. And since the cognition of universal is not independent as perception, so perception cannot grasp universal, and judgment, inference, and verbal knowledge, which are supposed to grasp universal, also cannot grasp a real entity, because universal is not real. Here, universal or Shamanyo Lakshana maybe, no, universal is not Shamanyo Lakshana. I know that universal is completely understood in a different way in Buddhist ontology or epistemology. But here, the main point is universal is not real. Now, when Buddhists have attacked the Nyayo position and has stated that universal is not real and perception cannot grasp universal, then here, maybe from the side of the Siddhanti, an alternative account of grasping real object is given. The upholders of the above position hold that a particular is not different from a universal. Here, this particular statement I think is not confusing you, because the upholders of the above position means I am talking about those who have given a different account of real and a different account of grasping real. Now, Noyaikos can be such a party who has said that a particular is not different from a universal. What does it mean? They have already said that a particular is qualified by universal, and then this particular is the meaning of common noun. Now, if now they say that the particular is not different from a universal, what do they mean? Their intention here is, since no distinction is grasped between these two, that is the particular and the universal, these are not different from each other. That is, they are saying that the nature of universal is such that it is always with the particular. They do not have a separate existence apart from the particular. So in this sense, it is said that they are not distinguished. That is the contention or intention of the Noyaikos. And they are saying that no distinction is grasped between these two. These are not different from each other. Since the space, they are explaining it further. Since the space occupied by a particular is not grasped to be different from that of universal, the latter is not different from the former. That is, the particular occupies a particular space, but apart from that, the universal which resides in the particular, or we can say is so closely related to the particular that it does not have any other space than the particular. So since the space occupied by a particular is not grasped to be different from that of universal, so the latter is not different from the former. This is one of the arguments given by the Noyaikos to show that actually the universal is not different from the particular. If a particular is not perceived, a universal is not cognized. We all know that. The universal can only be cognized by virtue of the particular. So this is another argument to show that these are not different. Thus, these two are not different. Since the opponents raise objection against the perception of universal and only admit the perception of a particular, Noyaikos are trying to show that actually universal is not different from particular. So here we can understand the notion of particular as provided by the Noyaikos is different from that of the Buddhists. For the Buddhists, the particular is bare particular. It is completely devoid of any qualification. But for the Noyaikos, the particular can be qualified by universal. And so they say that since the universal doesn't have any independent status from the particular, so if the particular is perceived, the universal at the same time is perceived. So we cannot say that universal cannot be perceived. But I think that here the root difference, the debate rests on the different concept of particular. So if we do not understand this difference between the notions of particular, then we cannot understand the views of Noyaikos and the Buddhists regarding the universal. Thus, the perception of particular amounts to the cognition of universal also. This is the Nyaya view. This is the Nyaya view. They are trying to understand the universal as associated with particular in such manner that they are undifferentiated. But they are missing a point that Buddhists never understand a particular in this manner. Their particular is swalakshana. So they never can say that the particular is the universal cannot have the status of a real. The particular is bare particular, swalakshana, and that is perceived only. So when Noyaikos, here Jointo hasn't mentioned that, but it is my observation that here, if the Noyaikos try to give an answer to the Buddhist attack by saying that since the universal is undifferentiated from the particular, so with the particular, the universal is also perceived, the Buddhists will say, we do not admit such kind of particular. So we will retain our position that only particular, bare particular is perceived, and your way of understanding particular, that is the particular qualified by universal, is not at all particular. So the question of perceiving universal doesn't arise. So I think this is the position here. here I would like to mention another thing that we all know in I'm just clearing a bit the concept of this particular as qualified by universal and why it is regarded as non-different or undifferentiated from the particular. We know the notions of Juto Siddho and Ajuto Siddho. We know that Noyaikos regard certain pairs of categories, the relationship between those are ajuto siddho. That means that whenever one is there, the other is associated with it. Now, though Noyaikos have admitted universal as eternal, they are saying that in spite of being eternal, it is associated with particulars can destroy, but universal cannot. Because when one particular is destroyed, the universal is associated with another particular. It is not that all the particulars have destroyed at the same point of time. So it is there. For that reason, maybe they have to admit universal as eternal. So here, I think, I don't know when I was a student of NIO, and then later on I have started learning Buddhism. Perhaps I don't know anyone in a very good proper I require much more reading and studying. I believe that. But here, the main controversy that we find between Noyaiko and the Buddhists is that not only the nature of the particular and universal, but also the relationship between these two. The particular and universal. Now, in the Buddhist case, since only the particular is real, therefore, the relationship, if a vyavaharika relationship is established between the particular and the universal, this is merely a vyavaharika relation and it is not real. It is not the case only that the universal is not real, but the relationship, obviously, between the particular and the universal is also not real. But the realist Noyaikos are basically realists, empiricists, and pluralists in the contemporary terminology. So for them, the universal is real, particular is real, and the relationship between the universal and the particular is also real. So I think this is the main distinction. This is the whole conceptual framework of Nyayo is different, is so different from that of the Buddhists that sometimes I think that when these debates take place, can there be debaters, because a particular position like Nyayo, they have proceeded with their own understanding of certain terms, and the Buddhists proceed with their own understanding of the same term, and they enter into a debate. It is my question, and I'm asking, since Nirmaloda is here, I'm asking this question to him, that it troubles me from the very beginning when I was a student of philosophy in my BA and MA class, that how this communication is possible when two completely different systems enter into a debate with different understanding of the same words. The question of incommensurability must arise. Okay, but when the debate is taking place, there must be some communication, and they are refuting one position and establishing one position. But this refutation and establishment of a position requires some similarity of the meaning of certain terms. But here we find that the basic meanings of the same term are different. So when actually here we are talking about universal, some are saying that it is real and some are saying that it is not real, it is merely name, then how can we determine whose of their position by holding a certain meaning of the same term? Some say that no, you find drishtantos. In drishtanto, are they takes the same drishtanto in explaining their views, but I think the drishtanto is much more later it will come. First, the clarification of meaning is to be done, isn't it? So here, the whole debate regarding the status of universal or whether universal can be the meaning of something, it depends upon the meaning of universal. This is my conclusion here, that the meaning of universal is so different from system to system. I haven't gone to the Bhattomimamsa. Here, Jayanto also have discussed the position of Bhattomimamsa. This is a very beautiful exploration by Jayanto. I will ask you all to read, please, this fifth Andiko of Nayamanjari, which is very, very beautiful. And Jayanto has made it explicit and very, very explanatory. I am not covering all the different nuances here, but my moot question remains when I am studying, when I am preparing for this presentation. I again thank Nirmaloda that he has given me the opportunity to think over it, that this meaning problem of these technical terms which are used so rampantly in different systems cause the problem, the debate. Actually, the debate starts from this meaning. And unless and until we solve this meaning problem, can we enter into a debate or can we establish a position? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. This is very, very pertinent and relevant question that you raised towards the end of your lecture. And this is the same feeling that I have, when I, study these debates. But another point that you have rightly mentioned, and I think Professor Kalidas Bhattacharya has also, in his paper on kind of reconstruction of the debates in classical Indian philosophy refers to, that each of these systems has some fundamental beliefs or presuppositions, something like that. And rest of the views on logic, on metaphysics, etc., all follow from those fundamental presuppositions, and that explains why each of these systems individually is so well knit, so so coherent. So you can't really pick up one particular view, criticize it, and then you can be assured about the rest of the system. You can't do that. It's at least insofar as Indian philosophical systems is concerned, this possibility is not there. Okay. But still, I think, historically speaking, I mean, we come across debates within the system, right? We come across, philosophers who, sort of refine or sometimes reformulate some of the, arguments, some of the conclusions arrived at by his predecessors within his system. So, I mean, intra-systemic, debates, differences are also there. Okay. But then, I just wondering, I mean, about this universal that you talked about today. Can there be, I mean, in order to account for the successful debate between the two rival views about the reality of universal, can we talk about a minimal definition of universal on which both of these rival views can agree, and then the debate starts off? I don't know. It's just a loud thinking that I'm sharing
Uh,
with you.
I think that maybe then we have to come to the common sense notion of universal, because we
Mhm.
know that how much we do philosophy, we come again and again to the common sense, and the philosophy begins with the common sense notions and
Mhm.
clarifying the common sense notions, the meta, because actually we know sometimes it becomes completely a meta discourse, but sometimes it is commonsensical also. We know that
Yeah,
Neo system is very much commonsensical. So perhaps the Neo view, the way the Noyaikos have started their understanding of universal, and they have started understanding universal associated with particular. This is a very a commonsensical notion, and it is true that Buddhists do not admit this understanding of universal, and they haven't accepted it as real. But when they are saying that it is not real and nominal, these are philosophical jargons. We
yeah,
all know
yeah,
these
yeah,
terms.
yeah,
But
yeah.
as layman, as who we also are ordinary people. We are not only the philosophy scholars or philosophy students. Now, we are ordinary people. So we also understand the common sense very much, and we understand that how and how far from common sense the philosophy is built.
Mm,
Perhaps the
mm,
Buddhists have built the philosophy. Uh, it appears that it is not very close to the common sense, but since at first they have made the levels, that is
mhm,
the Sangritti and the Paramarthiko, they know that whatever they say in the realm of Paramarthiko has a difference from the level of Sangritti. And this
mhm,
Sangritti level or Vyavaharik level, perhaps they have to admit universal. And we all know that, yes, they have accepted universal and it as a meaning of a word also. They
mm,
also admit meaning, they also admit uh, inference. So if they always remain at the paramarthic level, then no debate is possible with them.
mhm, mm,
So
mm.
perhaps this Vyavahariko level of them and the other systems philosophy can come to each other at par, and they can debate. This
Yeah, yeah,
is only I can think of
yeah,
just now,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
sure.
thank you.
Uh, Yeah. So my dear participants, we did have the opportunity of listening to a very nice talk right now concerning the debate between the Buddhists and the Naiyayikas regarding the nature and ontological status of universal. So if you have any questions or comments or clarifications to ask, please come forward.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
sure.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I was thinking of a question like regarding the Buddhist position about universal, that is nominalism.
Yes.
What they are saying about the function of human mind. I mean, universal as a name,
Function of, sorry,
hu human mind, human
human
mind.
mind.
Okay,
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, universal as a name. Is it dependent on the function of human mind? I mean, is it a name according to
Yes,
our
can you
mental
please
concept?
clarify the question a bit? Yes.
Yes, whenever they are talking, but their position is nominalism regarding the universal. Okay, now when they are
Yes.
talking about nominalism, I mean these names, I mean universal as a name, its existence
Hmm.
is dependent on the function of our mental actions, or or its existence is independent of our mental action. I mean universal as a name.
Actually, I haven't gone to their own position of universal.
Okay.
Perhaps you have heard of the term opoho, which
Yes.
is the term they have used instead of shamanno or other terms used in other systems of Indian philosophy to refer to this universal. They are saying, actually, they are saying that it is the task of this apoho to distinguish. And since they deny the role of universal as present in similar loci, they do not admit this role of universal. Their understanding of universal is should be understood from a negative perspective. Apoho actually is, you will listen about Apoho from Professor Chatterjee, so I haven't gone to it. But this Apoho is, it serves as universal. I'm saying that it serves as universal because, as I have mentioned just now, that in our language we require something like universal, and they say that this apoho helps them to distinguish particulars. Okay, so this is a cow, and they say that it is not horse. Okay, so the horse is not cow. In this way, they distinguish, and here they are saying that they say that since it helps to understand, it helps to, it only has a vyavahariko role, and so the thing is that nominal I have said because when we say like cowness or the term cow, it is a general term. Now here there is no such real entity which is referred to by this common noun, or as the Noyaikos has said, that a particular qualified by the common feature. They are saying that this notion of common element is unreal, actually. It is an exclusion of the other, of itself. This is the apoho, the exclusion of the other in itself. So,
Yes.
in order to understand something in a roundabout way, we can say that the exclusion of other in itself, the exclusion of horse in cow, that is the function of universal for them, and this is regarded as apoho. So, non-A is the common element of A. So we can determine, so you can understand it is logic. It is logic, and we, as far as we go through the Buddhist tradition, we will understand that sometimes it is a bit counterintuitive, whereas the Noyaikos are much more commonsensical. Why it is counterintuitive? Because common people never generally approach the thing in the way Buddhists approach. They are doing logic and abstract reasoning while doing philosophy more than the Noyaikos. Yes, of course, in Nobonayo there is technicalities, but it is not that they are not doing any conceptualization or technical discussion, but I think that the Buddhists, in their discussion, sometimes go far from the common sense, and they are giving stress much more on logic, always, starting from their definition of proma praman to this universal. They try to be more precise and to determine this apoho. So they are saying that non-A is A. So in order to determine A in a precise way, they are using this double negation. Okay. So mental construction, I don't know, because for them this mental construction and linguistic construction comes very close. So this apoho for them is merely name, and no reality, no actual reality is there.
Okay.
I don't know whether I can answer your question, Shatabrata.
No, it's all good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Any other question or clarification to ask?
Hello, madam.
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, can you clarify the distinction of selection's criteria or attribute that made by Dignac, Dharmakirti, and Jadavpur. So all these three scholars, do you have any calibration or any distinction among them?
Yes, of course. First of all, I would like to say that Jayantu is not a Buddhist. As I have mentioned at the onset, that Jayantu is a Noyaiko. But his discussion, the way he discusses philosophical notions, he first of all has given the opponent's position, has stated the opponent's position, and then he started refuting it from the Nyaya view, and then the Nyaya position he has finally stated. So when he has stated the Buddhist position, we find that how the Buddhists have attacked the Nyaya notion of universal. Now, this in doing so, we have found out the term real. And in clarifying it, I have said that for the Buddhists, real or sat, that is orthokriyakari. Whatever is orthokriyakari is sat. For the Buddhists, and especially for Dignago Dharmakirti, as you have told, that in Pramanovartiko, Dharmakirti has used the term sat as orthokriyakari. Sat means, orthokriyakari means that which can produce something, which has potency to produce an effect. And as soon as it produces the effect, it is no more. So its actual reality consists in producing the effect. So it is regarded as orthokriyakari. But for Jayanto, being a Noyaiko, he is not admitting this particular understanding of sat, because he is not a Buddhist. So Dharmakirti and Dignago's notion of sat or real is orthokriyakari. Jayanto only has presented their view, but he himself is not being a Buddhist. He is a Noyaiko, does not endorse this view of real. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, then I guess with this note, let us again convey our sincere thanks to Professor Maitryee Dutta for a beautiful, presentation on one of the most, crucial debates between the Nyaya and Buddhism. So thank you very much, Professor Dutta. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmal Loda. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay.
Thank you all.